Hey guys, Rascal here, and today, since I wanted to do some things related to February, I was going to cover some romance type series or things that had ships in them, so I'm kind of doing a little mixture of both this time. So today I'm going to be reviewing Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Now, depending on your view of the show, this could be something to be excited about or asking why on earth would you cover that, and I can get why for either answer. So, for those who don't know, Star vs. Force of Evil is a show on Disney Channel and then later came on Disney XD, created by Darren Nefsey, and it ran for 4 seasons. It's about a girl who's a princess from another dimension, and she comes to Earth to learn how to be. I don't know. I think they tried to get rid of her for a little bit. I'm still not really clear on that. I think they were trying to help her become a better princess by going to the school. Why they chose a school on Earth and not one of the royal academies, I don't know why. And there she meets who will later become her best friend, Marco Diaz, and she has to protect her wand, which is a family heirloom of the butterfly family, from a monster army led by Ludo, who for the first season pretty much keeps trying to take the wand from her almost every episode. And from there, the show kind of shifts in its plot kind of every season. I think every season is actually something different, which at first sounds like, hey, they got a new story every time, but for some I think it can be seen as kind of a bit all over the place. So the first season, as I said, is about Star coming to Earth, having fun little magic adventures, and blending in Earth and Muni things together. Her friend Princess Ponyhead comes in. You see Margot trying to get with Jackie Lynn Thomas. You see Monster Arm, which is basically the Venom of the Star universe. And the way that the first season ends, it kind of has a big cliffhanger with the introduction of the famous show villain Toffee, who only appeared a few times in the show, but ended up getting a huge following and being even more popular than Ludo. So, after that, the show was gone for almost 2 years, and when it came back, it looked and felt a bit different. Second season was about Star still trying to learn how to use her wand, only this time half of it was missing because of the battle with Toffee. So they really couldn't find the other half, so only half the wand worked. Plus, from there, they had to deal with the magic going haywire and it being linked to Star's emotions, which was a good idea, but I don't think they really went all the way with it. Like, there was pink when she was feeling love or happiness, and it was green when she was feeling anger or envy, which could have worked, but it seemed like they didn't really do enough with that concept, because I've seen some fan works do some pretty creative ideas, and I think they could have gone a little further with that concept, especially when you see Ludo, who lost his castle, his monster army, and everything at the end of the season, so he starts to learn how to strive on his own without an army with him or people doing things for him, and you actually end up finding out why a little later. So he ends up finding the other half of the wand and he uses it himself, and he kind of learned how to use it based off emotion pretty quickly, even faster than Star. Only his emotion is always full of anger, so his always looks green, while Star's can kind of be of a mix. So season 2 ends up being sort of about Star navigating the wand, and then some other episodes about Ludo trying to get back to either his home or to Earth to fight Star again, which he ends up doing, but it doesn't go exactly as planned. And by the end of the season, again, the story changes. Then comes in a lot of what people kind of didn't like about the shipping drama. I mean, Marco had finally told Jackie Lynn Thomas that he liked her, and they actually finally ended up together, which is a shock because it usually doesn't happen in these shows. And at first, Star's really happy for him. He had been working so hard to do that, and finally made his move, and it worked. But then, after a while, it looked like she was beginning to not enjoy it. And I'm going to be honest, the shipping thing in the beginning, I kind of didn't mind because it's a little drama, but I always thought it was I always thought it was kind of funny. It was like kind of watching a soap opera, but better written. So I really didn't mind the shipping drama and love triangle in the beginning. I thought it was kind of funny. And then it gets to season 3, because season 2 ends with a pretty heavy cliffhanger where stars to leave Earth, because it looked like Toffee had returned and was beginning to attack the Muni Castle. And the third season, I think for a lot of people, including me, was probably the best season of it. The first season was great in terms of it finding its theme, and the third season for me was the best because it had a lot of lore and high fantasy elements, and it really was finding its stride with that. And I think they could have combined that with the season 1 feel to have a good balance, and that what the show could have been the whole time. Star leaves Earth. Marco's really depressed, and so is everyone else. And after like the Battlefield Muni TV movie, which was actually pretty well made, Star does, I guess she still remains on Muni, and then Marco ends up staying on Muni with her. And it becomes their adventures in Muni, I guess doing a parallel of her having adventures on Earth. And then that's pretty much when the story was at its peak in terms of the lore and the stuff about Queen Eclipsa and everything. And it was pretty intense, and it had some really well made episodes, some pretty good animation, and they were really at their peak with this. And then at the end of the season, you had this really big monstrous battle with Miss Heinous, and I won't spoil what happens there, but it's a lot. Then it was really, really good. And then we get to the 4th season, and I think the show ended up being lost. Though this is just a hot take of mine, it's personal opinion. I think the show kind of lost its way by the 4th season. I liked the theme of the first season being fun and crazy and wacky and dealing with magic things. The second season was kind of boring to me. It seemed like it really wasn't doing anything. And then the third season had the high fantasy, the lore, the high commission, Toffee, Ludo, backstory, the mom's backstory, where the family line came from. All of that really, I remember, was a huge part of the fandom for a while, and everyone was wondering who was Eclipsa for the longest time. Then we got to the 4th season, and then everything you kind of thought was going to happen didn't happen. Monster Arm never came back like they kept hinting at. Jenna wasn't a relative of Marco, which they kept hinting at. Jackie wasn't a mermaid, which they kept hinting at and then dropped this season. Toffee didn't come back as people thought the way he was supposed to. Ludo actually had a good turnaround and actually became a good guy towards the end and had great character development. I think that really goes undiscussed. I think he had a pretty good character arc, and I think the voice actor Alan Tudyk did a great performance as him the entire time going from each season. But it ended up just being kind of boring. They were doing episodes that almost nothing to do with each other. Glaugor, who you thought was a monster like Eclipsa, turns out he wasn't. He was just wrongfully imprisoned, and that whole drama and dynamic kind of went away after a while. Star ended up with Tom again, which was probably one of the worst of events in probably my life. But that didn't last long either. Marco broke up with Jackie, but it was actually on a very okay terms. She wasn't really upset about it, which was a pretty strong thing to show, because usually it's always a Jerry Springer event, but they actually show some maturity for her character, which I did like. It was done very tastefully. And then Marco ended up with Kelly, the girl with pad in her hair. He ends up with her for like a minute, which I don't understand why. I think they were trying to, I don't know what they were doing with that. It wasn't even enough time to develop that, so they broke up like immediately. I really didn't understand the point of that. And then you have the shipping drama that stopped being as funny because he had a love square, rectangle, octagon, whatever. And then by the end, if you know the ending by now, with magic being gone and the two worlds coming together, on one hand, that was a good idea having the two worlds coming together, but I wasn't a fan on how they finalized Starco, nor was I a fan on them getting rid of magic. It felt like it was a little rushed. I think they should have done more with the story and the monster racism and all that. Because they really had some great things in here and great ideas, great concepts, and people were praising the show for actually tackling these ideas. They just started hitting people over the head in the final season, and it didn't make sense to do. Like, it's okay if you disagree, I have no problem with that, but I think it should have combined the silliness of season one and the fluid animation with the high fantasy and lore and backstory of season three, and I think the show could have had a better ending and been more lasting for people, because the way it ends, it doesn't feel like there's going to be anything else. There could be no sequel, no spinoff. There would be no other King of Muni with Marco like people thought it was going to be. And it was a strange way to end the show. And there were talks of possibly doing a Star movie, whether it be a true finale or a event taking place in the middle of the series, but so far nothing's really been concrete. But yeah, I know this really wasn't really focused on love or anything romantic about it, but I still like Starco. I mean, I don't like how they handled it at the end, but I still like the ship. I just could have thought that their result for it could have been much better. I think all the extra shipping and pairing off was a little much since they're all teenagers. But for the most part, I still like the show. I just don't like how it ended, and I don't like certain episodes. But there are lots of great episodes. There are a lot of great ideas in here that should have been handled better. I still think it's a very impactful show that did have some pretty good lessons for the most part. And yeah, that's pretty much what I think of Star. Is I wouldn't rewatch parts of it again, but as a whole, I think I would watch the parts and episodes I enjoyed the most. So, what did you guys think of Star vs. the Forces of Evil? Did you still love it the whole way through? Did you like it in some parts you didn't like? Or did you just kind of hate it the whole time or just hate the ending like a lot of people understandably do? And who did you like to ship? Did you still like Starco by the end? Or were you more into Tom and Star? Or Marco and Jackie? Or Marco and Kelly? For whatever reason. If you're any of those instead, you can tell me why, and I will read and completely understand why. And thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and click the notification bell, and I'll see you all next time. Later!